You've been told that more is better. More hours, more hustle, more notifications, more tools. But if you're honest, you know this equation never adds up. The truth is, in the modern world, working harder is the default that keeps you spinning, not winning. The real prize goes to those who operate differently, not with relentless busyness, but with deliberate focus and clarity that cuts through the noise. If you've ever suspected that your potential is being squandered by distraction, or wondered why some people manage to create breakthroughs while others drown in to-do lists, you are holding the antidote. Sage Mode is not another list of tips or a collection of productivity hacks. It is a complete mental operating system for a world that conspires to shatter your attention and waste your energy. This book exists because Just Try Harder has failed you for the last time. Inside, you'll find the blueprint to make your brain your most valuable asset, no matter your credentials, background, or history with focus. The system is clear. Protect your time, engineer your environment, and reclaim the leverage that comes from operating at your cognitive peak. The journey you're about to begin isn't about cramming more into your day. It's about building a life where deep work, tangible creation, and calm intensity are your default state. You will learn why fractured attention, not lack of willpower or talent, is the silent killer of progress. You'll see how context switching quietly bankrupts your mind, and why defending your calendar is the most strategic move you can make. The tools in these pages are not theoretical. They're battle-tested: time blocks, single tasking, energy rhythms, start rituals, and anti-drift tactics, all assembled into a protocol that compounds results without compounding stress. This is not the path for those content to explain why they're always behind or to worship at the altar of busyness. It is for builders, those who are ready to architect their days, produce meaningful work, and build reputations for reliability and depth in a world obsessed with speed and surface. You don't need another app. You need to adopt a new identity, someone who finishes what matters and has the assets to prove it. The chapters ahead are designed to do more than inform. They will walk you, step by step, from chaos to clarity. You will learn how to defend your focus with the ferocity of a professional, how to harness the full power of your natural rhythms, and how to eliminate drift before it can steal your day. Most importantly, you will see how all these practices fuse into a sustainable, formidable way of living and working, one that makes you not just productive, but irreplaceable. This is your invitation to step out of the noise and into Sage Mode. Protect your mind, reclaim your time, build your moat, and prepare to astonish yourself with what you can create. Chapter 1. Enter Sage Mode. Everything you know about working hard is a lie that is keeping you poor, tired, and stuck. You believe that if you just sit at your desk for 10 hours, reply to every email within 5 minutes, and keep your calendar packed edge to edge, you are being productive. You are not. You are simply busy. And in the modern economy, busyness is the most dangerous form of laziness because it allows you to feel important while you accomplish absolutely nothing of value. You are vibrating with anxiety, not moving with velocity. You are reading this because you feel the disconnect. You finish a long day exhausted, yet when you look back at what you actually shipped, what tangible assets you created, the page is blank. You are drowning in a shallow sea of notifications, meetings, and half-finished tasks. This stops today. You are not here to learn a few life hacks or download another to-do list app. You are here to install a new mental operating system. We call this Sage Mode. It is a protocol for deep focus, clean inputs, and repeatable execution that will allow you to produce outsized results without the chaos that currently rules your life. The architecture of fake progress. The enemy you are fighting is not a lack of time. It is fractured attention. You are suffering from a cognitive disease where your focus is sliced into such thin slivers that it becomes useless. Think about your average day. You start a task, but 5 minutes in, a notification pings. You check it. You return to the task, but your brain has to reset. Then a colleague stops by. Then you remember an email. This constant context switching is not just annoying. It is destroying your brain's ability to function at a high level. Every time you switch tasks, you pay a cognitive tax. You bleed momentum. By the end of the day, You haven't done 8 hours of work. You have done 400 microtasks that add up to zero significant outcomes. This fragmentation creates a calendar that prioritizes coordination over creation. You spend your prime cognitive hours, the times when your brain is sharpest, sitting in status meetings or clearing out your inbox. You are giving your best energy to low-value tasks and leaving your most important work for the scraps of time left over in the margins. This is a structural failure. It leads to a life where you are constantly reacting to other people's urgencies rather than architecting your own importance. You have adopted the identity of the busy person, someone who wears exhaustion as a badge of honor. But the market does not pay for exhaustion. It pays for outcomes. The noise is overwhelming the signal. Your inputs are outpacing your processing power, creating a backlog of guilt that follows you home. You believe that buying more tools or organizing your folders will fix this, but tools often just multiply the complexity. You are trapped in a cycle where urgency always crowds out strategy. You are so busy bailing water out of the boat that you never have time to fix the hole in the hull. This is the trap of fake progress. You feel like you are moving, but you are merely spinning in place, grinding your gears until they strip. Building your competitive moat. When you successfully install Sage Mode, the shift in your reality will be jarring. You will move from a state of frantic reactivity to one of calm, lethal intensity. By consolidating your attention and protecting it with the ferocity of a guard dog, you will achieve result density. This is the measure of real progress per focused hour. While your peers are spending 8 hours to produce 2 hours of value, you will produce 10 hours of value in 4. This is not magic. It is attention economics. When you remove the drag of context switching, your efficiency doesn't just double, it compounds. Over time, this creates a durable competitive moat around your career. In a world where everyone is distracted, the person who can hold a single thought for 3 hours is a wizard. You will develop a reputation for clarity and reliability. When people mention your name, it will be shorthand for "it gets done." You will stop being the person who is always available and start being the person who is always effective. This shifts the power dynamic. You will no longer be chasing opportunities. Bigger, harder problems will seek you out because you are the only one with the bandwidth to solve them. This leads to a lifestyle of calm control. Imagine finishing your work at a reasonable hour, not because you gave up, but because you actually finished. Imagine the deep satisfaction of closing your laptop, knowing you moved the needle on your most important project. You will operate with a sustainable pace that rejects burnout. You will have the mental space to think, to create, and to breathe. This is the promise of the Sage Mode operator. You are not working more. You are working with a physics-defying level of leverage. The stagnation trap. If you choose to ignore this and continue on your current path, the future is bleak and predictable. You will face longer days with flatter results. As your responsibilities grow, your current method of just work harder will fail. You will have to throw more hours at the problem just to maintain the same mediocre output. Your error rates will rise. You will become the bottleneck, the person who is always scrambling at the last minute. Delivering work that is just good enough to avoid getting fired, but never good enough to get noticed. Your credibility with stakeholders will erode as you miss deadlines or deliver half-baked ideas. The cognitive debt will eventually bankrupt you. The backlog of unfinished tasks and unmade decisions will create a chronic state of overwhelm. Decision fatigue will erode your judgment, making you dumber as the day goes on. Your creativity will collapse under the noise because creativity requires space and you have none. You will become a processor of information rather than a generator of insight. Ultimately, this leads to a plateaued career trajectory. You will be stuck shipping incremental work while others ship transformational work. You will be replaced, not necessarily by AI, but by a human who is using Sage Mode to outthink and outproduce you. Stagnation will become your identity. You will be the person who had so much potential 10 years ago but never figured out how to harness it. This is the cost of inaction. It is a slow, comfortable slide into irrelevance. Your first week in the system. You are going to stop bleeding out today. By the time you finish your first pass through this book, you will have established a beachhead against the chaos. You will not be perfect, but you will be operational. Your objective is to establish a weekly plan with protected depth blocks. You will fight to carve out 2 90-minute windows where you are unreachable. You will create one no-meeting stripe on your calendar, a demilitarized zone where no Zoom call is allowed to enter. You will stop checking email every 3 minutes and start batching your communications into specific windows. You will also install a reliable start ritual. We will discuss this in depth later, but know this: the hardest part of deep work is the first 5 minutes. You will learn a scripted set of actions, a specific sequence of physical and digital moves that will ignite your focus on command. You will use a visible timer to anchor your attention and chase a micro-win to build immediate momentum. You will stop waiting for inspiration and start summoning it. Finally, you will put one anti-drift rule in place. You will engineer your environment so that distraction is difficult. You will turn off notifications by default. You will put your phone in another room. You will create a parking lot for stray thoughts so they don't derail your train of thinking. These are the initial fortifications. They are simple, but they are the difference between an amateur and a professional. The protocol of leverage. The transformation into a Sage mode operator follows a specific sequence. First, you must define one high-impact focus domain. You cannot be a Sage at everything simultaneously. You will write a brief that defines exactly what you are trying to achieve, identifying the smallest shippable unit of work. You will choose a short timeline to force intensity. Clarity is the precursor to speed. You cannot hit a target you have not defined. Next, you must build calendar defense. This is where you move from theory to logistics. You will create recurring blocks at your peak energy times. You will offer office hours to absorb the ad hoc requests that currently riddle your day like bullet holes. You will shorten your default meeting times to buy yourself breathing room. You are taking back sovereignty over your time. Then, you install the start ritual and engineer the anti-drift environment. You create a workspace that signals to your brain that it is time to perform. You remove the visual noise. You use blockers to prevent digital wandering. You practice the art of sitting with boredom for 5 minutes without reaching for a dopamine hit. And finally, you will learn to externalize your thinking. You will stop trying to hold everything in your head. You will build a system to capture, clarify, and synthesize information so that your brain is free to process, not just store. We follow this order for a reason. Time protection must come first because without space, rituals cannot stick. If your calendar is a war zone, no amount of willpower will save you. Once you have the time, you need the ritual to use it effectively. Starting friction is the primary failure point for most high performers. Once you can start, you need anti-drift measures to sustain the effort. And once you can sustain focus, you use externalization to scale your thinking. It is a logical progression from defense to offense to dominance. Winners protect, losers explain. The difference between those who master Sage mode and those who fail is not intelligence, it is attitude. Winners protect their time, losers explain why they couldn't. Winners have the courage to say no to low-value requests so they can say yes to the work that matters. Losers accept interruptions as a fact of life, apologizing for not being available every second of the day. Winners measure their day in deep hours, how much time was spent in pure creation. Losers measure their day in busy hours, how long they suffered at the desk. Winners iterate, losers justify. When a winner misses a block or gets distracted, they look at the data. They ask what went wrong with the system, and they fix it. They refine their protocols. Losers make excuses. They blame their boss, their clients, or the culture. Winners ship small, ship often, and ship clean. They value artifacts over alibis. They know that until work is delivered, it is a hallucination. Most importantly, winners own their identity. They tell themselves, "I am a builder." They view their boundaries not as rude barriers, but as promises they keep to themselves. They understand that their standards must rise as their results rise. Losers outsource their control. They say, "I'm so busy," as if busyness is a weather condition that happened to them. You must decide right now which one you are. Are you a victim of your schedule or the architect of it? The curiosity gap. You now understand the philosophy of sage mode. You see the battlefield clearly. You understand that your fractured attention is the anchor dragging you down, and you see the potential of a life defined by result density and calm power. You have the map. You know that you need to protect your time, build rituals, and lock out distractions. But knowing the map is not the same as walking the path. You can clear your calendar tomorrow, lock your door, and sit down to work, and you will still likely fail. Why? Because creating space is only the first step. The moment you sit down in that silence you fought so hard to create, you will face a new, more subtle enemy. Your brain, unaccustomed to depth, will revolt. It will scream for stimulation. You will find yourself staring at a blank page, the silence deafening, your mind grasping for anything to relieve the tension of pure focus. There is a specific way to engage with your work that bypasses this resistance. There is a method to structure your attention that turns that 90-minute block from a painful staring contest into a fluid, high-velocity stream of output. It involves a counterintuitive approach to how you define your problems and a mechanism for holding your attention in a vice grip that most people have never been taught. Without this next piece of the puzzle, your protected time is just empty time. Let's open the engine room. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Deep Focus. You are currently selling your time at a discount. Every time you sit down to work and allow your attention to fragment across 3 different tabs, a Slack channel, and a half-written document, you are devaluing your own cognitive currency. You might feel busy. You might feel the adrenaline of juggling. But the market does not care about your juggling act. The market pays for solved problems, and difficult problems do not yield to scattered attention. They only yield to sustained, crushing pressure applied to a single point. This is the concept of result density. Most people measure their work in hours. They say, "I worked 10 hours today." But if those 10 hours were riddled with context switches, the result density is near zero. You produced a lot of motion, but very little progress. In Sage mode, we stop counting hours and start counting the density of the results produced within those hours. We are looking for the kind of breakthroughs that happen when you hold a complex mental model in your head for 90 minutes without dropping a single piece. This is deep focus. It is not just a habit. It is an unfair competitive advantage in an economy that is addicted to distraction. The attention capital theory. Think of your attention like capital in a bank account. Most people spend their attention capital in pennies. They spend a penny on an email, a penny on a text, a penny on a quick question from a colleague. By the end of the day, they are bankrupt, and they have purchased nothing of value. Deep focus is the act of saving up that capital and investing it all at once in a massive, concentrated bet. When you invest your attention in a lump sum, it compounds. The quality of your thinking doesn't just double, it grows exponentially. This is why the context switch cost curve is so brutal. Every time you switch tasks, you don't just lose the time it takes to switch, you lose the cognitive residue of the previous task. It takes minutes, sometimes up to 20, to reload the complex context of a hard problem into your working memory. If you switch every 10 minutes, you are effectively operating with a lobotomized brain. You are never reaching the deep end of the pool where the real insights live. You are splashing in the shallows with everyone else. History's highest performers understood this instinctively. Bill Gates didn't build Microsoft by answering emails in real time. He took think weeks, isolating himself to process massive amounts of information without interruption. Carl Jung built his Bollingen Tower specifically to escape the noise of the world and access the depths of his own psyche. They knew that deep work is not a luxury. It is the only way to produce work that is original, durable, and impossible to ignore. When you stay in the pocket of a problem long enough, you start to see connections that the distracted masses miss. You stop regurgitating what you've read and start synthesizing new models. Aim small, miss small. Deep focus is not just about staring at a screen until your eyes bleed. It is about precision targeting. You cannot simply focus. You must focus on something specific. The biggest mistake ambitious people make is sitting down to a deep work block with a vague intention like, make progress on the project. That is a death sentence for your attention. Vague goals invite distraction because your brain doesn't know what done looks like, so it looks for an escape. To enter Sage mode, you must select one hard, high-leverage outcome. Before you start, you define the finish line. You write down the one outcome that moves the needle. You define the success criteria in plain language. You identify the constraints. You are not working on the presentation. You are drafting slides 4 through 10 to convince the board to approve the budget. See the difference? One is a wish, the other is a mission. Once the target is locked, you hold your attention there for a specific duration. We use the 90-minute block. This is not an arbitrary number. It aligns with your body's ultradian rhythms, the natural cycles of energy and alertness. 90 minutes is long enough to get past the initial resistance and into the flow state, but short enough to sustain high intensity without cognitive failure. During this block, you are aiming for a specific artifact, a page, a proof, a prototype. You are not just thinking, you are building. You track your context switches like a hawk. Your goal is fewer than 3 switches per block, ideally 0. You stay in the tunnel until you see the light at the other end. The lies keeping you shallow. You will feel resistance to this. Your brain will offer you a buffet of excuses to keep you in the shallows. The most common lie is, I'm just not a focused person. This is nonsense. Focus is not a genetic trait like eye color. It is a muscle like your biceps. If you have spent the last 10 years training your brain to be distracted by responding to every beep and buzz, of course you are weak. But you can train yourself back. Identity follows action. When you successfully execute a deep block, you cast a vote for a new identity. You stop being a scattered person and start being a focused operator. Systems beat talent, especially when talent is distracted. The second lie is the cult of collaboration. You have been told that great work happens in brainstorming sessions and open-plan offices. This is a half-truth. Collaboration is necessary for refinement and alignment, but it is poison for creation. Deep, original insight happens in solitude. You cannot think deeply while you are talking. Collaboration should accelerate your work after you have done the deep solo thinking, not replace it. If you bring half-formed ideas to a meeting, you get half-baked feedback. Share artifacts, not stream-of-consciousness babble. The third lie is that you need better tools. You think a new note-taking app or a smarter calendar will fix your distraction. But tools often just add more friction. They give you more buttons to click and more settings to tweak. In Sage mode, we strip the environment down. Fewer tools mean fewer decisions. One workspace, one window. The tool should amplify your strategy, not replace it. If you can't focus with a text editor and a timer, you can't focus with a complex project management suite. The surgeon's protocol. So how do you actually execute this? You treat your deep work blocks like surgery. When a surgeon scrubs in, they don't check their phone. They don't let a nurse walk in and ask about the lunch order. They are locked in. You must treat your peak cognitive hours with the same reverence. It starts with the 3-sentence brief. Before you start your timer, you write 3 sentences. First, the situation. What are the facts and constraints? Second, the goal. What is the finish line in plain English? Third, the method. What are the first 3 moves you will make? This brief acts as a contract with yourself. It bridges the gap between intention and action. It eliminates the blank page panic that leads to procrastination. Then, you schedule the depth. You book 2 recurring blocks at your peak energy times. During these blocks, you enforce a no page, no meeting rule. If someone wants your time during these hours, they must provide a written brief of what they need, and you will review it later. You offer office hours at a different time to absorb these ad hoc requests. This protects your deep blocks from being cannibalized by other people's lack of planning. Finally, you measure your result density weekly. You look at your output per deep hour. Are you getting faster? Are you producing higher quality work? You track your switches. If you switched tasks 5 times in a block last week, aim for 3 this week. You adjust the scope of your work to maintain the balance between challenge and skill. If it's too easy, you get bored. If it's too hard, you get anxious. You want to be right on the edge where flow happens. Weapons of mass construction. To win this battle, you need tactical weapons. The first is a visible timer. This sounds trivial, but it is psychological warfare against your own laziness. A countdown creates urgency. It creates a finish line. It forces you to stop dithering and start sprinting. When you see the minutes ticking down, you stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be done. It encourages micro sprints, keeping your energy high. The second weapon is the parking lot. While you are in deep focus, your brain will try to sabotage you. It will remind you that you need to buy toothpaste or email your accountant or check the stock price. If you act on these impulses, you break the spell. Instead, keep a physical notepad next to you. When an intrusive thought arises, capture it in the parking lot without switching context. Write it down and immediately return to the work. You are telling your brain, I heard you, it's safe but not now. You review the parking lot after the block is over. This keeps the cognitive thread intact. The third weapon is full screen mode. It is a simple rule, one input channel. If you are writing, the document takes up the entire screen. If you are coding, the IDE takes up the entire screen. No browser tabs peeking out from the side. No dock bouncing at the bottom. You use physical notes for rapid sketching if you need to think laterally. Fewer clicks mean more thinking. You want to reduce the friction of doing the work and increase the friction of leaving the work. The compounding returns of depth. What happens when you commit to this? The trajectory of your life changes. In the good scenario, you manage to salvage 6 distraction-free hours a week. That might not sound like much, but it's 6 more than most people get. You ship 1 meaningful artifact a week. Your thinking becomes noticeably cleaner. Stakeholders start to see momentum. In the excellent scenario, you are hitting 10 to 12 deep hours a week. Now you are dangerous. You are delivering a major milestone every week. Your revision cycles are faster because you aren't making careless mistakes born of distraction. You feel a measurable lift in your performance. You are no longer drowning. You are swimming fast. In the best scenario, you achieve 15+ deep hours a week. This is elite territory. You are producing breakthrough insights or prototypes that others simply can't match. Your reputation upgrades. You become the go-to person for the hardest problems because everyone knows you have the cognitive horsepower to solve them. New opportunities appear unprompted because quality is a magnet. You are operating in a different league. Stabilizing the system. Things will go wrong. You will set vague goals and find yourself staring at the screen for 20 minutes, paralyzed. The fix is to rewrite the brief. Add a clearer finish line. Scope the work down to a 10-day push window so the deadline feels real. Define the first 3 moves so clearly that a child could execute them. Interruptions will try to collapse your blocks. If your environment is too chaotic, move. Go to a conference room, a library, or a closet if you have to. Enforce heads-down signals like headphones or a closed door. If people ignore them, be polite but firm. I am in a deep block. I will come find you at 11 hound. Default your notifications to off. You cannot be deep and available at the same time. Fatigue will set in. If 90 minutes feels like a marathon, shorten the block to 50. Insert deliberate resets between blocks. Walk, stretch, stare at a wall. Do not scroll social media during your break. That is not rest. That is just different noise. Reduce the scope of your work to keep the difficulty just above your skill level. You want to be challenged, not crushed. The trap of the open loop. You have now learned how to generate intense, laser-like focus. You know how to protect the time, define the target, and stay in the pocket until the work is done. You are building the capacity to go deep. but there is a hidden danger that arises precisely when you become capable of this level of depth. As you become more effective, you will be tempted to open more doors. You will start one deep project, and then, feeling the surge of power, you will start another, and another. You will have 3 or 4 massive undertakings running in parallel, each demanding your deep attention. You will feel like a god of productivity. But this is a trap. There is a subtle mathematical law that governs the throughput of any system, including your brain. It dictates that as you increase the number of active projects, your speed doesn't just slow down linearly, it grinds to a halt. You will create a traffic jam in your own mind. You will have focus, yes, but you will have no flow. You will be a Ferrari stuck in gridlock. To truly unlock the power of Sage Mode, you must learn to do something that feels almost painful to a high achiever. You must learn to kill your options. You must learn the art of the single thread. Because focusing on a task is useless if that task is stuck in a queue of 10 other half-finished dreams. The next step is not about how to work harder. It is about how to ruthlessly eliminate the competition for your own attention. Chapter 3. Single Tasking. Imagine a highway during rush hour. It is packed bumper to bumper. The capacity of the road is 100% utilized. There is no empty asphalt anywhere. To a naive observer, this looks like maximum efficiency. The road is being used to its absolute limit. But you know the truth. The cars are not moving. The throughput of that highway is effectively 0. Now imagine that same highway at 3 in the morning. There are only a few cars. There is massive amounts of empty space. And because of that slack, the cars are moving at maximum velocity. Your brain is that highway. For years, you have been sold the lie that to be productive, you must fill every lane. You have been told to multitask, to juggle, to spin plates. You keep 10 tabs open in your browser, 3 projects active on your desk, and a dozen half-finished conversations in your head. You believe this is what high performance looks like. You are wrong. This is what a traffic jam looks like. And just like that gridlocked highway, your actual throughput, the speed at which you finish things, has ground to a halt. You are about to learn the simplest, most ruthless force multiplier in the Sage Mode arsenal. It is the art of single tasking. This is not just about doing one thing at a time. It is about a fundamental shift in how you manage your workflow. It is about replacing the anxiety of plate spinning with the lethal calm of sequential execution. You're going to stop starting things and start finishing them. The high cost of context switching. The reason you feel exhausted but unaccomplished is a phenomenon called attention residue. Every time you shift your focus from Project A to Project B, your brain does not switch instantly. It is not a light switch, it is a heavy flywheel. When you turn your attention to the new task, a significant portion of your cognitive resources remains stuck on the old task. You are reading an email, but 20% of your processing power is still debugging the code you were writing 2 minutes ago. If you do this once or twice, it is manageable, but you don't do it once or twice. You do it hundreds of times a day. You switch from the report to the Slack message, to the phone call, to the news feed, and back to the report. With every switch, you pay a tax. You lose minutes, regaining the context, remembering where you were, and loading the complex mental models back into your working memory. When you multiply this switch penalty across an 8-hour day, the math is horrifying. You are not working 8 hours. You are working 4 hours and spending the other 4 hours mentally thrashing, trying to figure out what you were just doing. This is why you can spend all day at your desk and produce nothing of value. You are drowning in the overhead of your own multitasking. The power of the WIP limit. To fix this, we borrow a concept from manufacturing and software engineering, work in progress, or WIP. In a factory, WIP is the pile of half-assembled parts sitting on the floor. It is inventory that has cost money to create but cannot be sold yet. It is waste. In your life, WIP is every email you've read but haven't replied to, every project you've started but haven't shipped, every idea you've sketched but haven't executed. High WIP is the enemy of speed. When you have 20 active tasks, you are constantly context switching between them to keep them all alive. You are touching everything but finishing nothing. The solution is counterintuitive but mathematically undeniable. To move faster, you must reduce the number of things you are working on. We are going to enforce a strict WIP limit on your life. The magic number is 3. You are allowed to have 3 active items in your queue, not 10, not 5, 3. If you want to start a 4th item, you cannot. You are physically blocked. The only way to open a slot for a new task is to finish one of the existing 3. This forces you to stop juggling and start closing loops. It changes your entire orientation from starting to finishing. The myth of the multitasking hero. You might be resisting this. You might be thinking, but I have to multitask. My job demands it. High performers handle complexity by doing everything at once. Let's shatter that myth right now. High performers do not multitask. They serial process with extreme speed. They focus 100% of their energy on one thing, kill it, and then move to the next. They do not dilute their power by spreading it thin. There is a pervasive belief that if a task is not started, it is not happening, and that is bad. You feel anxious if a request comes in and you don't immediately touch it. You think that by starting it, you are making progress. You are not. You are just creating more inventory. You are adding another car to the already jammed highway. A task that is 1% done is worth exactly the same as a task that is 0% done. Nothing. Value is only created at the finish line. Another lie you tell yourself is that urgency always beats importance. You let the ringing phone or the pinging chat dictate your day because it feels urgent. But urgency without impact is just noise. When you react to everything instantly, you are letting other people write your to-do list. You are sacrificing your long-term goals for short-term dopamine hits. Single tasking requires the discipline to let the urgent wait while you finish the important. The finish queue protocol. How do you actually live this? You start by renaming your to-do list. It is no longer a to-do list, which is a bottomless pit of obligations. It is now your finish queue. This subtle shift in language primes your identity. You are not a doer, you are a finisher. You order this queue by impact, not by ease. You look at your list and ask, which of these, if finished today, would make the biggest difference? That goes to slot number 1. Then you identify slot 2 and slot 3. Everything else, everything goes into a backlog. It does not get your attention. It does not get your mental energy. It waits. Then you work on item number 1. You do not touch item number 2 until you are blocked on number 1 or you have finished it. If a colleague walks up to your desk with a quick request, you do not say yes. You point to your queue. You say, I am currently at my limit. I can add that to the backlog, but I cannot start it until I finish this. This is not rude. It is professional. It shows that you value your output more than your likability. Defining done. One of the reasons you multitask is that you don't know what finished looks like. You work on something until it's mostly done, and then you drift away to something else because the final 10% is hard. This leaves you with a graveyard of zombie tasks that are 90% complete but 0% shippable. In Sage mode, we use the concept of done. A task is not done when you stop working on it. It is done when it meets a strict definition. It must have a clear outcome. It must have an owner. It must have a tangible artifact, a document, a code commit, a sent email, and most importantly, it must be off your plate completely. If you write a report but don't send it, it's not done. If you send it but don't file it, it's not done. You must close the loop ruthlessly. Create a checklist for closure. Did you save the file in the right place? Did you notify the stakeholders? Did you clear the physical papers from your desk? When you practice done, you stop the mental leakage of open loops. You get the deep satisfaction of knowing that thing is gone and will never come back to haunt you. Tactical blinders. To maintain this level of singular focus, you need to shape your digital environment. When you are working on a task, it should be the only thing you see. Use the full screen feature on your computer. If you are writing, the document should consume every pixel of your monitor. Hide the dock. Hide the menu bar. If you can see an icon for your email, you will click it. It is inevitable. Remove the option. Adopt the one switch per block rule. If you are in a deep work block, which we discussed in the previous chapter, you are allowed to switch tasks exactly once, and only if you have finished the first one. You do not drift into a switch, you plan it. If you finish a task 20 minutes into a block, you take a breath, you celebrate the micro-finish, and then you deliberately open the next item in your queue. Use public commitments to lock yourself in. Tell your team, I am going dark to finish the Q3 projections. I will send them to you by 11 a.m. When you announce your finish line, you put your reputation on the line. You create a social cost to distraction. You will be amazed at how much faster you work when you know people are waiting for the artifact, not just your time. The compound interest of finishing. When you adopt single tasking, the results are not linear. They are exponential. At first, it will feel slow. You will feel the itch to check things. You will feel the guilt of the backlog. But then, something shifts. You will notice that you are closing loops faster than ever before. Your cycle time, the time it takes to go from started to shipped, will drop by half. Your stress levels will plummet. The background hum of anxiety that comes from having 50 open loops in your brain will silence. You will experience the calm that comes from clarity. You know exactly what you're doing and you know exactly what you are not doing. Your reputation will transform. In a world of flaky, distracted people who promise everything and deliver nothing, you will become the person who ships. When you say you will do something, people will believe you because they know you don't take on work you can't finish. You will build a brand of reliability that is worth more than any resume. You will be trusted with the critical deliverables, the high-leverage projects, the work that matters. Troubleshooting the system. Of course, the world will try to break your whip limit. Stakeholders will attempt drive-by delegations. They will try to dump tasks on you while you are walking to the bathroom. You must defend your queue. When someone tries to bypass your system, do not get angry. Get visual. Show them your list of 3 active items. Ask them, I am currently executing these 3 priorities. If this new request is urgent, which of these 3 should I stop doing to make room for it? This forces them to make a trade-off decision. Usually, they will realize their request is not actually that urgent, and they will agree to put it in the backlog. If they do swap something out, you have successfully negotiated your workload without increasing your whip. You will also face the enemy within, perfectionism. You will delay calling a task done because you want to polish it one more time. You must fight this. Define good enough acceptance tests before you start. If the task meets the criteria, ship it. Perfectionism is often just procrastination in a tuxedo. Ship a smaller slice sooner. You can always iterate later, but you cannot iterate on something that doesn't exist. The fortress of solitude. You have now learned to focus deeply and to execute sequentially. You have stopped the traffic jam in your brain. You are moving cars at high velocity. But there is a problem. You can have the best engine in the world and the best driving skills, but if the road is full of potholes, landmines, and roadblocks, you will still crash. You can have the discipline to single task, but if your calendar is an open field where anyone can pitch a tent, you are doomed. If your day is Swiss cheeses with random 30-minute meetings, you will never find the long stretches of time required to clear your queue. You have the mindset. Now you need the territory. You need to build a fortress around your time. You need to construct a schedule that is not just a list of appointments, but a defensive structure that repels chaos and protects creation. It is time to look at the battlefield of your calendar and start building walls. Chapter 4, Time Blocks. Open your calendar right now. Look at next week. If you are like most ambitious but overwhelmed professionals, you see one of 2 things. Scenario A is the Swiss cheese disaster, a chaotic scattering of 30-minute meetings, quick syncs, and recurring status updates that leave you with tiny, useless slivers of white space in between. You look at that white space and tell yourself, I'll get my real work done in those gaps. You are lying to yourself. You cannot build a skyscraper in 15-minute increments between Zoom calls. Scenario B is perhaps even more dangerous: the open field. This is a calendar that is largely blank. You look at it and feel a sense of freedom. You think, look at all that time, I'm going to be so productive. But an empty calendar is not freedom, it is vulnerability. An unblocked slot on your calendar is a signal to the world that you have no priorities. It is an open invitation for anyone with a mediocre idea to steal your most precious asset. If you do not claim that territory, someone else will. You have learned to focus deeply. You have learned to single task. But those are internal capabilities. They are useless if your external environment, specifically the way you allocate your hours, is designed to destroy them. You need a container for your focus. You need to stop treating your calendar as a list of places you have to be and start treating it as a fortress that protects what you have to build. This is the art of time blocking. The calendar decides what gets built. There is a brutal truth about productivity that most people ignore. If it is not on the calendar, it does not exist. You can have the best intentions in the world. You can have a finish queue perfectly prioritized. But if you have not physically blocked out the time to execute those tasks, they are nothing more than hallucinations. They are wishes. Your calendar is the ultimate arbiter of value. It reveals what you actually care about, regardless of what you say you care about. If you say your priority is strategic planning, but your calendar is 90% weekly status meetings, then your priority is not strategy. Your priority is talking about work. This is the difference between creation and coordination. Creation is the act of building assets, writing code, drafting proposals, designing systems. Coordination is the act of managing the logistics around those assets. Most people let coordination metastasize until it consumes the entire week. They squeeze creation into the early mornings or late nights, burning themselves out to do the only work that actually matters. Time blocking flips this equation. It forces you to schedule creation first, treating it with the same non-negotiable respect you give to a meeting with your CEO. When you block time, you are converting vague intention into concrete output. You are building a machine that makes progress inevitable. The fortress and the rhythm. When you start blocking your time, you are doing two things: building a fortress and establishing a rhythm. The fortress protects you from the chaos of the outside world. When you have a block on your calendar titled Deep Work Q3 Strategy, that is a shield. It allows you to decline requests without guilt. It signals to your team that you are unavailable, not because you are slacking, but because you are working on something high value. The rhythm reduces the friction of starting. When you have to decide every morning, what should I do today and when should I do it, you are burning decision capital before you even start working. But when your calendar has a recurring architecture, when you know that every Tuesday and Thursday morning from 9 to 11 is blocked for deep work, you don't have to decide. You just execute. This consistency compounds. Your brain learns the rhythm. It starts to ramp up its focus as the block approaches. Furthermore, your stakeholders learn the rhythm. They stop trying to book you at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays because they know you are never available. You are training the world how to treat you. The myths of the open door. You will face resistance to this, both from others and from yourself. The most common objection is that a blocked calendar is rigid, while an open calendar is agile. This is a misunderstanding of agility. Agility requires a strong foundation. If you are constantly reacting to whatever pops up, you aren't agile. You are chaotic. You are a leaf blowing in the wind. True speed comes from clear constraints. By locking down your core priorities, you actually create more freedom to handle the unexpected in the remaining time. You might worry that blocking time is rude. You fear that by being unavailable, you are letting your team down. But let's look at the alternative. Is it polite to be available all day but deliver late, low-quality work because you were too distracted to finish it? Respecting your own focus is the ultimate form of respect for your team and your clients. It ensures that when you deliver excellence. Visibility beats silent unavailability. When people see a block, they know you are busy. When they see a blank space and you don't respond, they think you are ignoring them. Finally, you might tell yourself, I'll focus when I feel like it. You think you need to be in the right mood to do deep work. This is amateur thinking. Feelings follow actions. You don't wait for the fire to start before you build the fireplace. You build the structure, the schedule, and the heat, the focus, follows. The schedule is the scaffold of your discipline. It holds you up on the days when you don't feel like standing. Architecting the autopilot week. So how do you build this fortress? You start by mapping your constraints. You cannot block 8 hours a day for deep work. That is a fantasy. Look at your week. Identify the immovables, the team stand-ups, the board meetings, the client calls you cannot move. Then look for the white space. You are looking for your time-boxed depth blocks. You need to find 2 90-minute windows every day, preferably during your peak energy hours, which we will discuss soon. These blocks are your anchors. You place them on the calendar as recurring events. You do not label them work. You label them with verbs and outcomes, draft project X, review code Y. You add a note to the event description, heads down, do not disturb. Once your anchors are set, you route coordination to the edges. You do not check email constantly. You batch it into 30-minute windows in the mid-morning and late afternoon. You create office hours, a recurring open block where anyone can book time with you for quick questions. This is your pressure valve. When someone asks for 5 minutes, you don't break your deep work block. You say, sure, grab a slot during my office hours at 3 p.m. The calendar defense doctrine. Now that you have the structure, you need the tactics to defend it. The first tactic is the 25-50 rule. Change your default meeting settings. A 30-minute meeting should now be 25 minutes. An hour meeting should be 50 minutes. This creates a built-in buffer. Without this buffer, back-to-back meetings are a disaster. You run late, you have no time to process notes, and you arrive at the next meeting flustered. Those 5 or 10 minutes give you time to reset, grab water, and close the loop on the previous interaction. It protects your sanity. Use color coding to audit your life. Make your creation blocks green and your coordination blocks red. When you look at your week, what is the ratio? If your week is a sea of red, you are in trouble. Aim for 60% creation. This visual budget keeps you honest. Implement the no page, no meeting rule. If someone sends you a calendar invite with no agenda and no context, decline it. Tentatively accept and reply, please send a one-page brief on what we need to decide. If I don't receive it by tomorrow, I'll assume we aren't ready to meet. This protects your prime hours from people who want to use a meeting to force you to do their thinking for them. The feeling of control. When you successfully implement time blocks, the shift in your reality is palpable. In a good week, your 2 deep blocks survive every day. You get 6 to 8 hours of pure, uninterrupted creation time. You feel a massive reduction in stress because you know exactly when the hard work will get done. You stop worrying about the work while you are in meetings, and you stop worrying about meetings while you are working. In an excellent week, you are hitting 10 to 12 deep hours. You are shipping your weekly milestones with time to spare. Your stakeholders start to align to your cadence. They know not to bother you in the morning, and they know you are responsive in the afternoon. In the best scenario, your system runs on autopilot. You don't have to fight for time anymore. The time is yours by default. You are delivering monthly major milestones that define your career. You have moved from a reactive firefighter to a proactive architect. You are calm, not because you have less to do, but because you have a place for everything. When the fortress is under siege. Of course, the enemy will try to breach the walls. You will face calendar sniping, where people book meetings over your blocks. You must preempt this. Use all-day events that show as busy to block out large chunks if necessary, or simply decline the invite with a proposed new time during your coordination blocks. If a boss overrides you, negotiate the trade-off explicitly. I can attend this meeting, but it means the Q3 report will be delayed by a day. Which is the priority? Make the cost of the interruption visible. Meetings will overrun. It is a law of nature. When the clock hits the 50-minute mark, stand up. Physically standing up signals that the meeting is over. Say, "I have a hard stop." Do not apologize. You are respecting the time of the next person you are meeting with, even if that person is yourself. Emergencies will happen. True fires need to be put out. But most emergencies are just poor planning in disguise. Keep one flex block of an hour each day. If a fire breaks out, use the flex block. If no fire breaks out, use it to get ahead on tomorrow's work. This prevents the emergency from cannibalizing your deep work. The hidden variable. You now have a complete structural system. You have the mindset of the sage. You have the laser focus of the single tasker. And you have the fortress of the time-blocked calendar. You are ready to operate at a level most people only dream of. But there is a flaw in this plan. It assumes that you are a machine. It assumes that an hour at 9 a.m. is exactly the same as an hour at 3 p.m. It assumes that you can plug any task into any slot and execute it with the same efficiency. This is a dangerous assumption. You are not a machine. You are a biological system. Your cognitive horsepower does not stay flat throughout the day. It oscillates. There are times when your brain is a supercomputer, and there are times when it is a pocket calculator. If you try to do heavy lifting when your battery is empty, you will break the system. You have mastered the when of your schedule. Now you must master the what. You need to understand the invisible rhythm that governs your biology, and you need to align your work to it before your body forces you to stop. Chapter 5, Energy Rhythms. There is a lie embedded in the foundation of the modern workday, a falsehood so pervasive that you likely treat it as a law of physics. The lie is that all hours are created equal. You believe that an hour at 9 a.m. is worth exactly the same amount of productivity as an hour at 2 p.m. You believe that if you simply push harder, you can force your brain to perform complex synthesis when it is biologically screaming for rest. You treat your mind like a machine that runs on a flat line of electricity, capable of constant, linear output as long as you keep the switch flipped to on. But you are not a machine. You are a biological system. And biological systems do not run in straight lines. They run in cycles. By ignoring this reality, you are leaving massive amounts of leverage on the table. You are likely doing your most expensive, high-value thinking when your brain is in a fog, and you are wasting your moments of peak cognitive clarity on replying to low-stakes emails. This is a misallocation of resources that no CFO would tolerate with money, yet you do it every day with your mind. In this chapter, we are going to dismantle the grind mentality and replace it with a rhythm-based approach. We are going to map your personal energy curve. We will identify your peaks, your troughs, and your plateaus. Then, we will reorganize your work so that you are surfing the wave of your biology rather than drowning under it. When you align the right task with the right energy, the friction disappears. Work feels lighter. Output skyrockets. You stop fighting yourself. The fallacy of linear output. The scientific reality is that your brain operates on ultradian rhythms. These are cycles of alertness and fatigue that occur roughly every 90 minutes throughout the day. There are moments when your neurochemistry is primed for focus, pattern recognition, and complex problem solving. There are other moments when your body is prioritizing recovery and your cognitive horsepower drops significantly. When you try to brute force your way through a trough, when you try to write that complex strategy document while your brain is in a down cycle, you are engaging in a losing battle. You might feel like a hero because you are grinding, but the results tell a different story. Your error rates go up. Your emotional regulation goes down. It takes you 3 hours to do what should have taken 1. You are burning expensive fuel to go nowhere. Conversely, when you waste a peak, when you use that precious 10 a.m. window of high alertness to sit in a status meeting or clear out your inbox, you are committing a strategic sin. You are taking your Ferrari, putting it in neutral, and revving the engine just to listen to the radio. That peak energy is a scarce resource. You only get a few hours of it a day. If you spend it on low-leverage tasks, it is gone forever. You cannot get it back later. The 7-day audit. You cannot manage what you do not measure. Most people have a vague sense of when they feel good, but vague senses do not build systems. You need hard data. To enter Sage mode, you must conduct a 7-day energy audit. This is not a complex medical procedure. It is a simple act of self-observation that yields high-value intelligence. For the next week, you are going to set a recurring alarm or simply check in with yourself every 90 minutes. You will rate your energy on a scale of 1 to 5. A 5 is high clarity, high drive, and sharp focus. A 1 is brain fog, lethargy, and a strong desire to stare at the wall. Alongside this number, you will note 3 variables: the time of day, your location, and what you were just doing. Do not change your routine during this audit. Just observe. Be a scientist of your own physiology. After a week, look at the data. You will see patterns emerge that are invisible in the daily chaos. You might find that you are consistently a 5 between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. You might find that you reliably crash at 2:30 p.m. You might discover that you have a second wind at 5 p.m. These are not preferences, they are biological facts. Once you have identified your top 2 peak windows, you have found your prime brain hours. These are the most valuable assets you own. The taxonomy of tasks. Once you have your map, you must re-architect your day. We divide all work into 3 categories: peak work, plateau work, and trough work. The goal is to slot these tasks into the corresponding energy phase. This is how you achieve signal-to-noise management. You want the strongest signal, your brain, applied to the hardest problems, the noise. Peak work is your deep work. This is the creation of new assets. It is writing code, drafting proposals, solving complex logic puzzles, or designing systems. This work requires high working memory and the ability to hold multiple variables in your head simultaneously. You must place your time-box depth blocks from the previous chapter squarely into your prime brain windows. During these times, you are a ghost. No email, no meetings, just you, and the hardest thing you have to do. Plateau work is for collaboration and planning. This usually happens in the mid-morning or late afternoon. You are awake and alert, but you lack the razor-sharp edge required for deep synthesis. This is the perfect time for meetings, brainstorming sessions, and reviewing the work of others. You are social and functional, but you are not burning your best fuel. Trough work is for the zombie tasks. This is the administrative debris that clogs up your life. Filing expenses, organizing folders, replying to routine emails, scheduling appointments. Most people make the mistake of doing this work first thing in the morning to clear the decks. That is a disaster. You are using your best energy on your lowest value tasks. Instead, save this work for the dip. When your brain is foggy and you can't write a coherent paragraph, that is the perfect time to clean up your inbox. You don't need to be smart to file a receipt. You just need to be awake. The art of the reset. There is a space between the notes that makes the music. In your workday, the space between the blocks determines the quality of the blocks. You cannot run from a high-intensity, deep work session straight into a high-stakes meeting without paying a price. You need to clear the cognitive residue. You need a reset. A reset is not a break where you check social media. Scrolling through a feed is not rest. It is just a different kind of noise. It floods your visual cortex with new inputs that your tired brain has to process. A true reset involves sensory deprivation or physical movement. It is 3 to 5 minutes of walking, stretching, or simply closing your eyes and breathing. You must build these micro resets into the transition points of your day. After a 90-minute deep block, stand up. Walk away from the screen. Let your eyes adjust to a long distance. This allows your brain to consolidate what it just did and prepare for what comes next. It flushes the system. If you skip the reset, the fatigue accumulates. By 3 p.m., you are not just tired, you are fried. But if you pulse your effort, work, rest, you can maintain a high level of output until the very end of the day. Defending the high ground. The world does not care about your energy rhythms. Your boss, your clients, and your colleagues will try to schedule meetings during your prime brain hours because those are convenient times for them. If you let them, they will strip mine your peak energy for their own purposes. You must defend the high ground. This requires a shift in how you communicate. You do not need to explain the science of ultradian rhythms to your manager. You simply need to block the time. Name the blocks on your calendar something intimidating like strategic review or core development. Treat these appointments with the same rigidity as a flight you have to catch. If someone asks for that time, you say, "I am fully booked then, but I can do 2 p.m." You are moving the collaboration to the plateaus and troughs. You are training your team to expect you to be available when you are good for talking and unavailable when you are good for thinking. This actually benefits them. When you show up to a meeting in a plateau, you are present. When you show up to a meeting in a peak, you are resentful and distracted because you know you should be building. The rebound block. There is often a secondary peak that occurs later in the day, usually in the late afternoon or early evening. We call this the rebound. It is not as sharp as the morning peak, but it is useful. This is the time for synthesis and setup. Use your rebound block to process what happened during the day and set the stage for tomorrow. This is where you close your open loops. You look at your finish queue, you update your status, and you lay out the tools for the next morning. By using the rebound effectively, you ensure that when you wake up the next day with a fresh tank of peak energy, you don't waste a single drop of it figuring out what to do. You can hit the ground running. Troubleshooting the system. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, a crisis will occur during your peak. A server will crash, a client will threaten to leave. You will have to break the glass and use your prime brain to fight a fire. This is unavoidable, but you must recognize it for what it is, an emergency expenditure of capital. When this happens, do not try to make up the deep work later in the trough. You cannot force deep work into a tired brain. Accept that the deep work is lost for the day. Shift your expectations. Do the trough work, clear the admin, reset for tomorrow. The mistake losers make is trying to extend the day to compensate for the interruption, dragging themselves into a late-night grind that ruins their sleep and destroys their energy for the next day. Winners cut their losses, protect their recovery, and come back stronger. You might also find that your peaks shift. Maybe you are a night owl and your prime brain is at 10 p.m. That is fine. The system is agnostic to the clock. It only cares about the rhythm. If your peak is at night, then your morning is for admin and meetings. Do not fight your biology to fit a corporate ideal. Adapt the schedule to the organism, not the organism to the schedule. The invisible barrier. You have now constructed a formidable system. You have the mindset of a builder. You have the focus of a monk. You have the calendar of a general. And now you have the energy management of an elite athlete. You know exactly when to strike and when to rest. You have removed the friction of fighting your own body. But there is one final friction point that remains. It is the most dangerous moment of the entire workflow. It is the moment of transition. You can have the perfect time block reserved. You can have your energy peaking at a level 5. You can have your phone in the other room. And yet, you sit down in your chair, stare at the cursor blinking on the blank white screen, and you freeze. The sheer weight of the task in front of you feels crushing. The silence you fought so hard to protect suddenly feels loud. Your brain, sensing the impending effort of deep work, throws up a wall of resistance. It begs you to check just one more email, to adjust your chair, to get a glass of water. This is the threshold of woe. It is the precise second where intention meets resistance. And if you do not have a specific mechanical protocol to bridge this gap, all your planning, all your blocking, and all your energy management will collapse into procrastination. You need a trigger. You need a sequence of actions so automatic that it bypasses your executive function and forces your brain into gear before it has time to argue. You need to learn how to ignite the engine without turning the key. Chapter 6, Start Rituals. The cursor is blinking. It is mocking you. You have blocked the time on your calendar. You have identified your peak energy window. You have a clear goal. And yet, you are sitting there, paralyzed. The white screen feels like a vertical cliff face you have to climb without a rope. You feel a sudden, overwhelming urge to check your email, reorganize your desktop icons, or research the history of the stapler. Anything to avoid the pain of that first step. This is the threshold of woe. It is the most expensive moment in any creative or cognitive endeavor. It is the moment where intention meets resistance. Most people lose the battle right here. They burn so much mental energy debating whether to start, how to start, or if they are ready to start, that by the time they actually type the first word, their battery is half empty. They have spent their cognitive capital on the decision to work rather than the work itself. You are about to install a mechanism to bypass this struggle entirely. We are going to build a ritualized start switch. This is not about getting motivated. It is not about waiting for inspiration to strike like a bolt of lightning. It is about engineering a mechanical sequence of actions that overrides your limbic system's fear of effort. You are going to learn how to trick your brain into deep focus before it even realizes what is happening. The high cost of ignition. Think of a rocket sitting on the launch pad. The vast majority of its fuel is burned in the first few seconds of flight. It takes an immense amount of energy to break the hold of gravity and get the massive machine moving. Once it is in orbit, it can travel thousands of miles on a whisper of fuel. But that initial push is violent and expensive. Your brain works the same way. The transition from rest to deep cognitive load is metabolically expensive. Your brain wants to conserve energy. It views hard thinking as a threat to its reserves. So when you try to start a complex task, your brain throws up resistance. It offers you cheap dopamine alternatives, social media, news, busy work, to keep you safe and stationary. If you rely on willpower to overcome this gravity, you will eventually fail. Willpower is a finite resource. Every time you have to negotiate with yourself, "Come on, just open the document, you can do this," you are draining the tank. The goal of Sage Mode is to remove the negotiation. We want to make starting automatic. We want to turn the launch sequence into a reflex so ingrained that you are in orbit before you have a chance to doubt yourself. Engineering the sequence. A ritual is not a superstition. It is not about lighting candles or chanting mantras to the gods of productivity. It is a cognitive shortcut. It is a set of cues that tells your brain, context has changed. We are entering the arena. When you repeat the same sequence of actions in the same environment enough times, the actions themselves become the trigger for the state of mind you desire. Your start ritual must be a scripted sequence of 3 to 5 actions. It should take no more than 5 minutes. It must be identical every single time. This consistency is what builds the neural pathway. You want to reach a point where the moment you sit in your chair and put on your headphones, your brain automatically shifts gears because it knows exactly what comes next. This sequence leverages flow trigger stacking. Flow is that elusive state where action and awareness merge and time disappears. While you cannot force flow, you can increase the probability of it occurring by stacking the right triggers. These triggers include high consequences, immediate feedback, and a clear goal. Your ritual will artificially create these conditions in the first few minutes, acting as a ramp that slides you effortlessly into the work. The myth of the muse. There is a romantic idea that great work requires a visit from the muse. You believe you need to feel inspired to write code, design a building, or draft a strategy. This is a lie that keeps you amateur. Professionals do not wait for inspiration, they compel it. Action produces inspiration, not the other way around. You do not think your way into right action, you act your way into right thinking. Another myth is that you need a long, elaborate warm-up. You might think you need to read industry news for 30 minutes to get in the zone. This is procrastination wearing a suit. Long warm-ups are dangerous because they provide too many off-ramps. They give your brain too many opportunities to get distracted or bored. The best start is a fast start. You want to shorten the distance between not working and working to the absolute minimum. Some will say that rituals are rigid and kill creativity. They argue that structure stifles the artistic spirit. The opposite is true. Structure protects the spirit. By automating the mundane mechanics of starting, you free up your mental bandwidth for the creative chaos of the actual work. You are building a rigid launch pad so the rocket can fly wherever it wants. Scripting your launch. To build your ritual, you first need a definitive cue. This is the on switch. It involves a specific location and a sensory reset. Ideally, you have a dedicated workspace. When you sit in that chair, you work. You do not eat there, you do not scroll there. If you don't have a separate room, use headphones as your wall. The moment the noise-canceling headphones go on, the world goes away. This auditory cue is powerful. You can also use a sound reset, a specific playlist or white noise track that you only listen to when you are in deep focus. Next, you script the first 3 physical moves. This removes choice overload. You do not sit down and ask, "What should I do?" You sit down and execute the script. Move 1. Open the specific brief or document you prepared yesterday. Move 2. Set a visible timer for 90 minutes. Move 3. Create the first artifact. This third move is critical. You must define a win condition for the first 5 minutes. It should be trivially small. Write 50 words. Sketch 1 box. Define 1 variable. The goal is not to finish the project. The goal is to break the seal. Once you have created something, anything, you have crossed the threshold. You have generated a micro-win. This releases a hit of dopamine that propels you into the next 5 minutes. You are no longer stationary. You are moving. Closing the loop. A great start actually begins the day before. The final step of your ritual is actually the first step of tomorrow's ritual. You must never finish a deep work block by draining the pool completely. You must leave a little water in the well. Before you end your current session, stage the next start. Write down the very first action you will take tomorrow. Do not write, "Work on Project X." Write, "Draft the opening paragraph of Section 2. Leave the document open. Leave your tools laid out. You want to lower the activation energy for your future self. When you sit down tomorrow, you shouldn't have to think. You should just have to look at the note and obey. This is called parking downhill. You park your car facing down the hill so that when you release the brake tomorrow, gravity does the work for you. You are using your current clarity to navigate your future fog. Tactical accelerators. To make this even faster, use the one-tap workspace. If you spend the first 10 minutes of your block opening tabs, finding files, and logging into accounts, you are inviting distraction. Automate this. Set up your computer so that one click opens every tool you need for that specific task and closes everything else. If you are coding, one click opens your terminal, your IDE, and your documentation. If you are writing, one click opens your editor and blocks the internet. If you feel intense resistance, use the 2-minute rule. Tell yourself, "I will only do this for 2 minutes. If I still hate it after 2 minutes, I am allowed to stop." This lowers the stakes. Your brain is afraid of a 90-minute slog, but it can handle 2 minutes. Almost always, once you have done 2 minutes, the resistance melts away and you keep going. The friction is in the start, not the motion. Finally, leverage social pressure with a public countdown. Text a colleague or a friend. "I am starting my deep block in 5 minutes. I will send you a screenshot of my first page at 9:20. Now, you are not just fighting for yourself, you are fighting to save face. This external accountability can be the kick you need to get moving. The compound effect of consistency. When you first install this ritual, it will feel mechanical. It might feel fake. Do it anyway. In the good scenario, you will find yourself starting within 2 minutes of your scheduled time. You will stop dithering. You will reclaim the 15 to 20 minutes you used to waste getting ready. In the excellent scenario, the ritual becomes a Pavlovian trigger. The moment you sit down and put on your headphones, your brain will flood with acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter of focus. You will enter flow states faster and stay there longer. You will stop fearing the blank page because you know you have a system to defeat it. In the best scenario, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as a procrastinator who struggles to focus. You start seeing yourself as a sage mode operator, someone who starts fast always. You become a machine of execution. While others are waiting for the mood to strike, you are shipping. Troubleshooting the drift. Over time, your ritual might bloat. You might start adding steps, checking metrics, cleaning the desk, adjusting the lighting. This is ritual drift. You must prune it ruthlessly. If your start sequence takes longer than 5 minutes, it is no longer a ritual. It is a procrastination strategy. Cut it back to the bone. 3 steps, 5 minutes. Go. You might also get bored. The novelty of the ritual might wear off. If this happens, rotate one element. Change the playlist. Change the specific micro-win you chase. But do not change the core structure. The boredom is actually a good sign. It means the habit is becoming automatic. The most dangerous moment is T+0, the exact second you intend to start. This is when a notification on your phone can derail the entire sequence. If you see a text message right as you are sitting down, the ritual is broken. You must enforce a clean entry. Your phone must be in airplane mode or in another room before you initiate the sequence. You cannot launch a rocket if people are walking on the launch pad. The silent killer. You have now mastered the art of the start. You can sit down, ignite your brain, and enter a state of deep focus on command. You have the time blocked, the energy aligned, and the launch sequence initiated. You are working. The cursor is moving. You are building momentum. But as you settle into the work, you are entering a hostile environment. You might have silenced your phone, but there are other forces at play. There are visual cues in your peripheral vision screaming for attention. There are internal urges bubbling up from your subconscious. There are well-meaning colleagues walking past your door. You have built a fortress around your time, but you have not yet secured the interior. You are trying to perform surgery in a room full of flies. You can start the surgery, but can you finish it without infection? The next step is to design the physical and digital boundary conditions that prevent the world from leaking in. We need to talk about the invisible friction that is slowly bleeding your attention dry, even after you have successfully started. It is time to drift-proof your life. Chapter 7, and drift. You are leaking. Right now, as you read this, your attention is bleeding out of a dozen tiny, invisible holes. You might feel focused. You might have your calendar blocked and your start ritual perfected. But if you look closely at your day, you will see the carnage. It's the 3 seconds you spent glancing at a notification. It's the 30 seconds you spent adjusting your window size. It's the minute you spent wondering if you should reply to that Slack message now or later. This is drift. It is not a catastrophic explosion of distraction. It is a slow, silent hemorrhage. It is the death of deep work by 1,000 cuts. You don't notice it happening because each individual instance feels harmless. What is 5 seconds? Nothing. But when you aggregate those 5-second leaks over 8 hours, you haven't just lost time. You have lost the ability to sustain a complex train of thought. You are trying to fill a bucket that has no bottom. Most people try to fix this with willpower. They grit their teeth and promise to try harder to stay focused. This is a losing strategy. Willpower is a battery, and it drains with every moment of resistance. If you have to use willpower to ignore your phone, you have already lost. The sage mode approach is different. We do not rely on discipline. We rely on design. We build guardrails so high and so strong that staying on the road is the only option. We call this anti-drift. The myth of steel discipline. There is a pervasive myth that high performers are ascetics who possess a supernatural ability to resist temptation. You imagine them sitting in a chaotic room, phones buzzing, people shouting, yet they remain locked in a trance of productivity solely through the power of their mind. This is a fantasy. High performers are not better at resisting temptation, they are better at removing it. This is based on the principle of environment-behavior coupling. Your environment cues your behavior. If there is a cookie on the table, you will eventually eat it. If there is a phone on your desk, you will eventually check it. If there are 20 tabs open in your browser, you will eventually click them. This is not a moral failing. It is biological determinism. Your brain is wired to seek novelty. If you put novelty within reach, your brain will grab it. The amateur relies on their internal strength to say no to these cues. The professional changes the room so the cues don't exist. You must stop trusting your vibes and start trusting your architecture. You need to design a focus habitat where the right action is the path of least resistance and the wrong action is impossible. Architecting the focus habitat. Your workspace is not a neutral container. It is either a cockpit designed for speed or a playground designed for distraction. Look at your desk right now. What do you see? If you see a stack of unread mail, 3 coffee cups, a fidget spinner, and a tablet, you are looking at visual noise. Every object in your peripheral vision is a subtle tax on your attention. Your brain has to expend energy to ignore it. To build a focus habitat, you must be ruthless. Clear the visual field. When you are in a deep block, there should be only one thing in front of you, the work. If you are writing, have the keyboard and the screen. If you are sketching, have the paper and the pen. Everything else goes in a drawer or another room. This extends to your digital environment. The one-window policy is non-negotiable during deep blocks. If you are writing a report, the document should fill the screen. No dock, no menu bar, no desktop icons peeking out from the sides. Those open tabs in the background are not just passive placeholders, they are active open loops in your brain. Each one represents a task you haven't finished or a piece of information you haven't processed. They are psychic weight. Close them. If they are important, bookmark them, but get them off your screen. The restart tax. You might think that a quick interruption is harmless. You tell yourself, I'll just check this email for 10 seconds, then I'll go right back to coding. You are ignoring the restart tax. When you switch contexts, you don't just lose the 10 seconds you spent on the email. You lose the 10 to 15 minutes it takes your brain to reload the complex mental model you were building. Imagine you are building a house of cards. You are 5 levels up. Your hand is steady. Then someone bumps the table. The cards don't all fall down, but they wobble. You have to stop, steady the base, hold your breath, and slowly regain your composure before you can place the next card. That is what a notification does to your brain. This cost is nonlinear. If you are interrupted once an hour, you might lose 20% of your capacity. If you are interrupted 4 times an hour, you don't lose 80%, you lose everything. You are permanently stuck in the steadying the cards phase, never actually building the structure. This is why silence is not a luxury. It is a strategic necessity. The default off doctrine. To stop the bleeding, you must invert the default settings of your life. Currently, your life is set to default on. Your phone buzzes by default. Your email dings by default. People can walk into your office by default. You have to actively choose to disconnect. Anti-drift requires you to switch to default off. During your protected blocks, the world does not exist. Your phone is not just silent, it is in another room. Research shows that the mere presence of a smartphone, even if it is turned off and face down, reduces cognitive capacity. Your brain is actively monitoring it, waiting for it to come alive. Remove it. Turn off all notifications on your computer. Not just sound, but the visual badges, the bouncing icons, the banners. You should never know that an email has arrived until you choose to open your inbox. You are the predator, not the prey. You hunt for information when you are ready. You do not let information hunt you. Embracing the void. You can clear your desk, you can lock your door, you can throw your phone in the ocean, and yet you will still face the final and most difficult enemy, your own mind. You will sit down in your pristine focus habitat, ready to work, and suddenly you will feel an intense, vibrating itch. It is a physical sensation of discomfort. It is boredom. Your brain is addicted to dopamine. It is used to a constant stream of high-stimulation inputs, headlines, likes, colors, noises. When you cut that supply off to do deep work, your brain goes into withdrawal. It panics. It screams, something is wrong. It's too quiet. Check something, anything. This is where most people fold. They mistake this withdrawal symptom for a need to take a break or do some research. They click a new tab and the drift begins. To win, you must train for boredom tolerance. You must recalibrate your brain's baseline for stimulation. The 5-minute sit. Here is the drill. Every day for 5 minutes, you will do nothing. You will sit in a chair with no phone, no book, no music, and no work. You will just sit. It sounds easy. It will feel excruciating. As you sit there, you will feel the urge to get up. You will remember a text you need to send. You will suddenly be intensely interested in the lint on your sweater. Do not act on these impulses. Just observe them, label them. Say to yourself, I am feeling an urge to check my phone. Then let it pass. This is resistance training for your attention span. You are teaching your brain that the sensation of boredom is not a command, it is just a feeling. It rises, it peaks, and if you don't feed it, it dies. By practicing this in a controlled setting, you build the muscle memory to handle it during your deep work blocks. When the itch strikes at minute 45 of a project, you won't panic. You will recognize it, breathe through it, and keep working. Commitment devices. Sometimes the lizard brain is too strong for even the best training. In these moments, you need to bind your future self. You need commitment devices. These are tools that remove your ability to make the wrong choice. Use a website blocker. Configure it to lock you out of social media, news, and email for the first 90 minutes of your day. Do not rely on your promise to not visit those sites. Make it technically impossible. If you have to reboot your computer to check Twitter, you won't check Twitter. Use social pressure. Share your protected hours with your team. Tell them, I am going heads down until 11 a.m. If you see me on Slack before then, I owe you lunch. This turns your fear of embarrassment into a guardrail. You are leveraging your social instincts to protect your cognitive ones. The first 90 shield. If you can win the morning, you win the day. The most critical period for anti-drift is the first 90 minutes after you wake up. This is when your brain is most sensitive to inputs. If you check your email immediately upon waking, you have lost. You have allowed the world to dictate your priorities. You have flooded your clean cognitive slate with other people's problems. Create a first 90 shield. For the first hour and a half of your day, no external inputs are allowed. No news, no email, no social media. You exist in a bubble of your own output. You use this time to execute your start ritual and dive into your most important task. By the time you lower the shield and let the world in, you have already banked a massive win. You are operating from a position of strength, not reaction. Troubleshooting the human element. The hardest part of anti-drift is often other people. Your colleagues, your family, or your roommates are entropy machines. They will drift into your space and drag you out with them. You need a clear heads-down signal. This could be a closed door. It could be a specific pair of large over-ear headphones. It could be a literal sign on your desk. But the signal alone is not enough. You must enforce it. If someone interrupts you while the signal is up, do not be polite. If you smile and say, "Sure, what's up?" you have taught them that the signal means nothing. Instead, point to the headphones. Say, "I am in a deep block right now. Come back at 11. It will feel awkward the first time. Do it anyway." You are training them. Eventually, they will respect the boundary. They will realize that your time is scarce and valuable. Paradoxically, this will make them trust you more. They will know that when you are available, you are fully present. The paper tally. To gamify this, use a visual counter. Keep a piece of paper next to you during your block. Every time you successfully resist an urge to switch tasks, make a tally mark. Every time you catch yourself drifting and pull yourself back, make a mark. At the end of the week, look at the paper. Those marks are not just scratches. They are reps. They are evidence that you are getting stronger. In the beginning, you might have 50 marks. As your boredom tolerance grows and your focus habitat improves, the number will drop. You will find yourself flowing through 90 minutes with zero friction. The clarity of the empty room. When you implement anti-drift, you will experience a strange sensation. The noise will stop. The frantic buzzing in your pocket, the flashing lights on your screen, the constant interruptions, they will all vanish. You will be left in a silent room with nothing but your work. For the first time, you will see the true texture of your own mind. You will realize that the distractions were often masking a deeper problem. When you strip away the noise, you are left with the sheer complexity of the task at hand. You have stopped the leaks. You have filled the bucket. But now, the bucket is heavy. Your brain is no longer fragmented by interruptions, but it is becoming crowded with ideas. You are holding so many threads, so many concepts, and so many variables in your working memory that you feel like you are juggling boulders. You have focus, but you are reaching the limit of your cognitive RAM. You are trying to solve the puzzle by holding all the pieces in your hands at once. To reach the next level of Sage Mode, you must learn to let go. You must learn to take the thinking out of your head and put it into the world, where you can manipulate it, break it, and rebuild it without crushing your own mind. You need a second brain. Chapter 8. Externalize Thinking. Your brain is a processing engine, not a storage locker. This is the fundamental misunderstanding that keeps smart people stuck in a state of chronic low-level anxiety. You are walking around trying to hold 1,000 different data points in your head simultaneously. You are holding the grocery list, the client feedback, the bug in the code, the idea for the new feature, and the reminder to call your mother. You are treating your mind like a hard drive, stuffing it full of files and wondering why the processor is slowing down. The human brain has a severe limitation that you are ignoring at your peril. It's called working memory. Cognitive science tells us that you can only hold about 4 to 7 items in your working memory at any given time. That is it. That is your RAM. When you try to hold 8 things, you don't just drop the 8th thing. The entire system degrades. Your ability to reason, to solve complex problems, and to generate insight collapses because you are using all your energy just to keep the plates spinning. You have spent the last few chapters building a fortress of focus. You have blocked your time, managed your energy, and drift-proofed your environment. But if you sit down in that perfect silence with a brain that is redlining with mental clutter, you will not produce genius. You will produce panic. To operate in Sage Mode, you must stop trying to remember everything and start writing everything down. You must build a second brain. The RAM bottleneck. Imagine you are a carpenter. You are trying to build a table. But instead of putting your wood and your hammer on a workbench, you are trying to hold all the lumber, the nails, the saw, and the blueprint in your arms while you work. You are juggling the materials instead of manipulating them. This is exactly what you are doing when you try to think in your head. Thinking is the act of connecting ideas, identifying patterns, and making decisions. It is a dynamic process. But if you are using your mental energy to store the ideas, you have no energy left to connect them. You are paralyzed by the fear that if you let go of a thought, it will disappear forever. So you grip it tight, and in doing so, you strangle your creativity. The solution is to externalize thinking. This means getting the ideas out of your neurons and into a tangible medium. When you write a thought down, you are not just recording it, you are evicting it from your working memory. You are putting the lumber on the workbench. Now your hands are free. Now you can look at the idea objectively. You can move it around. You can break it apart. You can combine it with other ideas. You have upgraded your reasoning power by offloading the storage requirement. The capture habit. The first step to building this external mind is to establish a single point of entry. We call this the inbox. Most people have 5 or 6 inboxes. They have email, Slack, a physical notebook, a sticky note on the monitor, and a mental list. This is chaos. You need one place where everything goes. It doesn't matter if it's a digital app or a pocket notebook, but it must be singular and it must be frictionless. You must develop the reflex of capture. The moment a thought enters your head, whether it is a brilliant business idea or a reminder to buy toothpaste, you capture it immediately. You do not judge it. You do not organize it. You just catch it. This is not about being organized. It is about being empty. You want to walk around with a clear head, confident that nothing is being lost because everything is being caught. There is a dangerous arrogance in saying, "I'll remember that." You won't. And even if you do, the cost of remembering it is a subtle, constant drain on your attention. It is an open loop running in the background, eating up cycles. When you capture it, you close the loop. You tell your subconscious, I have this. You can stand down. The stress drops instantly. The hoarder's fallacy. However, capturing is only the beginning. If all you do is collect notes, you are not a sage, you are a hoarder. There is a myth that notes equal progress. You feel productive because you highlighted a book or saved an article to your read later list. But a collection of unread articles is not knowledge, it is just digital clutter. It is a pile of bricks that you haven't built anything with. This is where the clarify step comes in. You must process your inbox. You cannot let it become a graveyard of good intentions. You need a daily ritual, perhaps during your rebound block or your start ritual, where you look at what you captured and translate it. You are translating vague nouns into actionable verbs. Most people write mom's birthday on their list. That is not a task. That is a fact. When you look at that 3 days later, your brain has to do work to figure out what it means. Do you need to call her? Buy a gift? Plan a party? You must clarify the next physical action. Buy flowers for mom is a task. It has a clear finish line. If an item in your inbox doesn't have a clear next step, you delete it. You kill it. If it's just reference material, you file it. But you never leave it in the inbox to rot. The researcher's loop. Once you have a clear head and a clean system, you can engage in the highest form of externalized thinking, the researcher's loop. This is how you turn work into discovery. Most people approach a project like a student studying for a test. They try to memorize the answer. In Sage mode, you approach a project like a scientist running an experiment. The loop consists of 3 steps: question, test, refine. Instead of staring at a blank page trying to write the perfect strategy, you write down a hypothesis. You state in one line what you think the answer is. Then you design a small test. You don't build the whole product, you build a prototype. You don't write the whole book, you write an outline. You create a small, tangible artifact that you can test against reality. Then you refine. You look at the evidence. Did the prototype work? Did the outline make sense? You record the result and you decide the next step. This cycle turns big, scary problems into a series of small, manageable experiments. It creates momentum. You are no longer trying to be a genius in a vacuum. You are simply iterating on evidence. You are using your external system to have a conversation with the problem. Synthesis is the product. The ultimate goal of externalizing your thinking is not to have a massive archive of notes. It is to produce synthesis. This is the alchemy of intelligence. It is the act of taking 5 disparate pieces of information: a quote from a book, a metric from a report, a conversation with a client, and a random shower thought, and merging them into a single new conclusion. You should schedule a weekly synthesis block. This is non-negotiable. During this time, you are not capturing new information. You are reviewing what you already have. You are looking for patterns. You are asking, how does this connect to that? You are forcing yourself to compress your notes into one-page takeaways. This compression is painful, but it is where the value lies. When you force yourself to summarize a complex topic into a single page, you are forcing yourself to understand it deeply. You are creating a reusable knowledge asset. This asset, this template, this checklist, this framework is something you can use forever. You are no longer starting from scratch every time. You are standing on the shoulders of your past self. The trap of complexity. There is a trap waiting for you here. You will be tempted to build a complex, perfect system. You will watch YouTube videos about building a second brain that involve intricate tagging systems, bidirectional linking, and color-coded databases. You will spend weeks setting up the tool, and you will feel very productive doing it. Do not do this. Complexity collapses. The more friction you add to your system, the less you will use it. If it takes 5 clicks to save a note, you won't save the note. If you have to decide between 20 different tags, you won't tag it. Start with plain text. Start with a simple folder structure. The system should be so simple that it feels boring. The magic is not in the software. The magic is in the habit. A notebook and a pen that you actually use are infinitely more powerful than a complex database that you ignore. Name your files with verbs and dates. like Draft Strategy 2026-01-12, so you know exactly what they are and when you made them. Keep it functional, not decorative. Decisions over data. Ultimately, the purpose of externalizing thinking is to make better decisions faster. When you keep everything in your head, you are prone to decision fatigue. You burn out your willpower trying to weigh the pros and cons in the abstract. But when you write it down, when you use a decision record template, you make the choice visible. Write down the choice you face. Write down the reason for your decision. And later, write down the result. This creates a feedback loop. You can look back and see how you make decisions. You can see where you were right and where you were wrong. You stop making the same mistakes over and over again. You become a learning machine. By externalizing the process, you detach your ego from the outcome. The decision becomes an object on the paper, not a reflection of your soul. You can critique it dispassionately. You can improve it. You can share it with others and get feedback, because now it is a tangible artifact, not just a feeling in your gut. The clear horizon. When you implement this system, when you capture relentlessly, clarify ruthlessly, and synthesize consistently, you achieve a state of mind that is rare in the modern world. You achieve a clear horizon. You know exactly what you have to do, and more importantly, you know exactly what you are not doing right now. The background hum of anxiety vanishes. You are no longer worried that you are forgetting something because the system remembers for you. You are no longer stressed about the complexity of your work because you have broken it down into small, testable experiments. You are free to direct your entire cognitive capacity toward the task at hand. You have built the machine, you have the focus, you have the time, you have the energy, you have the guardrails, and now you have the external mind to process the output. You have all the components of a world-class operator. But a machine, no matter how perfect, is useless without a driver. A system, no matter how elegant, will rust and decay if it is not maintained by a living, breathing human being. You have the tools of the sage, but you do not yet have the life of the sage. The final step is not about productivity. It is about identity. It is about taking these disparate practices and fusing them into a coherent way of being that can withstand the chaos of the real world, not just for a week, but for a lifetime. You need to stop doing sage mode and start living it. Chapter 9, Live Sage. You are now standing at a precipice. Behind you lies the chaotic, reactive life you have lived for years, a life defined by fractured attention, endless notifications, and the exhausting feeling of running fast but going nowhere. Ahead of you lies a different reality. It is a reality where you are in control, where your output matches your ambition, and where you finish your day with a quiet mind and a full scoreboard. You have the tools. You know the theory. But a tool in a toolbox builds nothing. A map is not the territory. The danger you face right now is the reader's high. It is that false sense of accomplishment that comes from finishing a book and understanding a concept intellectually without having changed a single behavior. Most people will close this book, feel smarter for a day, and then slowly slide back into the sludge of the default world. You are not most people. You are here to install an operating system, not just admire the code. This final chapter is about integration. It is about taking the disparate parts we have discussed, time, energy, rituals, guardrails, and externalization, and fusing them into a single durable flywheel. It is about moving from doing sage mode to living sage mode. It's about becoming a formidable operator who starts fast, stays deep, and finishes clean, not just on good days, but on every day. The architecture of the machine. Let's look at the machine you have built. It is not a collection of random hacks. It is a coherent ecosystem where every part protects the others. It starts with the calendar fortress. You learn that if you do not defend your time, the world will steal it. You establish time box depth blocks, prioritizing creation over coordination. These blocks are the container. Without them, nothing else matters because you have no space to perform. But a container needs the right content. That is where energy rhythms come in. You stop treating every hour as equal. You mapped your biology and placed your hardest work in your peak windows and your administrative debris in the troughs. You aligned the machine with the engine. Then, you solved the friction of entry. You realized that starting is the most expensive cognitive action, so you installed a ritualized start switch. You scripted your ignition, same seat, same cue, same micro-win, to bypass procrastination and enter flow on command. Once inside the block, you deployed anti-drift guardrails. You built a focus habitat, silenced the digital noise, and trained your boredom tolerance. You ensured that once you were in the lane, you stayed there. Finally, you uncapped your potential with externalized thinking. You stopped using your brain as a hard drive and started using it as a processor. You built a capture and clarify loop to keep your head clear and a researcher's loop to turn confusion into momentum. Do you see how they interlock? The calendar protects the time. The energy map ensures the time is high quality. The ritual ensures you actually use the time. The guardrails ensure you don't waste the time. The external brain ensures the time produces value. If you remove one piece, the system wobbles. If you keep them together, you become unstoppable. The leverage of calm intensity. When you run this system, you unlock a new form of power, leverage. Most of the world is trading time for money, and they are doing it inefficiently. They are working 12-hour days to produce 3 hours of value. They are exhausted, frantic, and loud. You will be different. You will operate with calm intensity. This is the signature of the sage. It is the ability to produce massive results without the drama. Because you are not constantly context switching, you are not burning out your dopamine receptors. Because you are capturing open loops, you are not carrying low-level anxiety. You will find that you can do in 4 hours what used to take you 10. This gives you optionality. You can use that reclaimed time to double down and accelerate your career, or you can use it to rest, to learn, and to live. You are no longer a slave to the clock. You are the master of your output. You are building a reputation not for how late you stay at the office, but for the undeniable quality of what you ship. The paradox of boundaries. One of the deepest fears people have about Sage Mode is that it is selfish. They worry that by blocking their time and turning off their phones, they will damage their relationships. They fear that being unavailable means being a bad colleague or a distant partner. The opposite is true. The most selfish thing you can do is to be constantly available but permanently distracted. When you are always on, you are never fully present. You are checking emails during dinner. You are half listening to your team while glancing at Slack. You are physically there, but mentally absent. Sage Mode allows you to give the gift of full presence. Because you have a system that captures tasks and handles execution, you can turn work off. When you are with your family, you are with them. When you are in a meeting, you are listening, not multitasking. Your boundaries create respect. People learn that you are not a vending machine for immediate responses, but a serious operator who delivers high-value work. They will trade your speed for your reliability. They will respect your time because you respect it first. The formidable operator. As you continue to practice this, your capabilities will expand. You will find yourself tackling projects that used to terrify you. That book you wanted to write, that complex codebase you needed to refactor, that strategic overhaul you've been avoiding, they are no longer insurmountable mountains. They are just a series of time-boxed depth blocks. You will develop the ability to think clearly under pressure. When a crisis hits, while everyone else is panic switching and reacting to the noise, you will have a protocol. You will capture the inputs. You will clarify the next step. You will block the time to solve it. You will become the eye of the storm. This is what it means to be formidable. It means you are not easily shaken. It means you have a process for converting chaos into order. It means that when you say you will do something, it is as good as done. The compounding curve. Here is the secret that no one tells you about discipline. It gets easier. Right now, Sage Mode feels like effort. You have to consciously fight to block your calendar. You have to force yourself to do the start ritual. You have to grit your teeth to ignore the phone. But behaviors compound. After a few weeks, the ritual becomes a reflex. You sit down and your brain automatically focuses. After a few months, the calendar blocks become sacred territory that no one dares to violate. After a year, the identity solidifies. You stop trying to be focused. You simply are focused. Your knowledge assets will accumulate. You will have a library of templates, decision records, and synthesized notes. You will stop starting from scratch. You will move faster and faster with less and less friction. This is the nonlinear return. You are building a moat around your mind that grows deeper and wider every day. Monday morning protocol. So, what do you do now? Do not overthink this. Do not try to overhaul your entire life in one day. Start with the Monday morning protocol. First, open your calendar for the coming week. Find 2 90-minute windows where you can be undisturbed. Just 2. Book them. Label them deep work. Treat them like surgery. If you miss these, you die. Not literally, but your potential does. Second, script your start ritual. Take a sticky note. Write down 3 steps. 1. Put on headphones. 2. Set timer for 90 minutes. 3. Open document. Stick it on your monitor. When the time comes, do not think. Just read the note and move your hands. Third, install 1 anti-drift rule. Pick the easiest one. Phone in the other room. When your block starts, physically throw your phone onto your bed or put it in a drawer in the kitchen. That's it. 2 blocks, 1 ritual, 1 rule. Execute that for a week, then add more. The unfair advantage. We live in an age of infinite distraction. The world is conspiring to fracture your attention into 1 billion worthless shards. The algorithms are smarter than you. The news cycle is faster than you. The culture of busyness is louder than you. Most people will lose this war. They will spend their lives reacting to the pings, scrolling through the feeds, and wondering where the time went. They will drown in the shallows. But you have a choice. You have the playbook. Depth is the new superpower. In a world of distracted amateurs, the focused professional is king. If you can hold your attention on a hard problem for 90 minutes a day, you are effectively a genius. You have an edge that nobody protects and nobody can replicate. You do not need more time. You do not need more talent. You need more depth. The system is ready. The clock is ticking. The work is waiting. Go dark. Live sage. And as for what happens when you truly master this, well, let's just say that once you stop fighting your own brain, you'll discover that the only limit to what you can build is how big you dare to dream. But that is a story for the life you are about to build.